I would like to welcome everybody. This is Health and Wealth Wednesday. Today is October 23rd, 2024. Health and Wealth Wednesday, and I'm titling this Health and Wealth Wednesday Top Docs. We have four special guest doctors on this call from across the United States, and I've had the opportunity to interview 3 out of 4. And I'm going to share a little bit more about what we're going to do today, but pretty exciting. These are quality men that think outside the box. And my phrase that I've coined is thinking outside the prescription. So today we're thinking outside of the prescription. If anyone can just open their heart and mind, which I had a hard time doing when I was introduced to these patches October of 22. I was a skeptic, and I realized those watching are skeptical. We are all skeptical. But 2 months later, I put my faith in them. And within 5 months, my health was totally changed from sleep to off all prescription medication after an 18-year anxiety medication addiction. Had a very sick wife. They put me on and I was addicted for 18, 20 years. And the last thing that happened to me was my blood test came back in the 5th month showing I didn't need testosterone replacement therapy after 13 years. That really ignited me when that happened. And my mom's health totally turned around at age 80. And I'm like, Jeff, we need to take this on the road. So I actually have Dr. Harmon. Dr. Harmon, if you'd unmute yourself, and he's out of Idaho. And we've got Dr. Kneller, who's a cardiologist. And then we've got Dr. Addison, whose clinic introduced me to these patches, he and his son, Jeff, who's on the call, and then Dr. Wallace out of Montana. So I'm just going to sort of go around the room in that order and just ask Dr. Harmon if he'd share a little bit about his professional background, number one. Number two, when he started to personally patch and what he's noticed. And I know he has an amazing story from a heart standpoint, because I interviewed him back in January, and we have a cardiologist on this call that has actually published some papers with these patches. So this is going to be a really good call. I'm excited about this. So Dr. Harmon, if you just start off and share a little about where your background and where you're located and what you've noticed personally. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. I'm located in Meridian, Idaho. I have a practice called Clear Mind Idaho. And a lot of people say, well, what's a chiropractor doing with all this mind stuff? It's kind of a long story. We'll go over it another time, but it involved a suicide, a murder, and an osteomyelitis. And it shifted me in a totally different direction. And that's when I went and got board certified in reading QEEGs and neurofeedback and functional neurology and laser therapies. And then I put together a program that helps balance out the autonomic nervous system and gets people out of sympathetic freeze, which causes a lot of anxiety and causes the brain to be in emergency mode all the time. And so I don't do chiropractic anymore, but I'm certified in a lot of different things that I don't even do anymore. But it was because of those events that happened that I did that. I have been using these patches since April of 2020. So 4.5 years almost. And the biggest change that happened for me is I went from feeling like my heart was going to pound out of my chest, walking up a hill, to running up hills and not having right bundle branch block anymore. I had 2 stress echoes that showed I had that, and now I don't. And you wanted me to talk about some patients and some of their experiences. Is that right, Jeff? Or Rich?
Yeah. If you let's come around that next.
Okay.
I want to go with Dr. Kneller next. If you could, Dr. Kneller, just a little bit of background professionally, and then when you started patching and what you've noticed from a personal standpoint for those that missed my interview with you a few months ago. And then we'll go to Dr. Patterson, Dr. Wallace last, and then we'll circle back to Dr. Harmon, and we'll, from a professional standpoint, we'll talk about patients. So Dr. Kneller, your background and when you started patching and what you've noticed personally with your health.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. So I'm a clinical cardiologist and cardiac electrophysiologist practicing out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and also Lake Havasu, Arizona. Engineering background, interested in ultimately what works the best. And that has basically the philosophy that's garnered my interest in the patches, I started in 2022, March of 2022. I was introduced, had a pain syndrome in my shoulder and was patched and over top of my suit jacket, and had that pain go away, and I doubled my range of motion instantaneously. And that had me hooked. And at the time I was giving a talk on nutritional supplements that can benefit heart health. And I'd been talking about the value of supplementing with glutathione, and was then told that here is a patch, no drug or substance enters your body, but this would multiply the glutathione that was already in my body and make it 300% more effective. And I wouldn't have to actually swallow the supplement to have the benefit of that. And so that had me absolutely fascinated. My first own experience, I would say, then was with one of the energy enhancing patches, where I noticed a hike that I did quite regularly. It felt like I was suddenly on an escalator and performing much better than any improvement in my fitness would justify. So that got me very interested. And then the other thing where I've really benefited personally is I have very bad seasonal allergies. And so the allergy, the inflammatory, the patches for inflammation have been very effective in smacking down my inflammation and my seasonal allergies. I put the patch on, I stop sneezing, 12 hours later, I take it off and start sneezing again. So that's been pretty convincing for me personally.
Well, and if I can interrupt, so how long have you been battling allergies, if you can remember back?
Lifelong. When I was a kid, I had to take some serums and stuff, and they used to be terrible. I used to not be able to walk across a lawn without
Get her muted if you can. Caroline, if you can mute, please. So yeah, so Dr. Kneller, when did you say you began patching?
March of 22.
March of 22. All right,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, I'm gonna move over. Thank you for sharing about your personal experiences, your professional background. We're gonna go to Dr. Pattison, and Dr. Pattison's dear to me because his clinic introduced me to the patches. His son, Jeff Pattison, both were introduced to these patches. And right around October of 22, Dr. Pattison's the only doctor I've not interviewed on this Health and Wealth Wednesday. So Dr. Pattison, could you share a little bit about your background, where you're located, and what you've noticed personally with the patches and when you began patching yourself personally? And we'll come back around on the professional side and patients, but we want to hit Dr. Wallace after you.
Okay, well, I've been a chiropractor since 1973. I graduated in Palmer College Chiropractic, and I've always been fascinated with the cell. I thoroughly studied it in college, was interested in it, and of course, went through many different things, practiced in 4 different states, licensed in 5 different states, and of course, I jumped into the energy like the other doctor did, and I do activator protocol, and we do energy with frequencies, which is amazing. Fantastic results. In Arizona or Scottsdale right now, finally got me in a home office, which is comfortable, fantastic. I've been trying to slow down a little bit, but we still keep getting people who want more help. And we had a stem cell clinic, like you said earlier, for about 2.5 years, and we did stem cell injections, of course, which worked fine, which is costly, but then we was introduced to the patches. So, but doing the treatment I do is just fantastic and helps with the patches. So that's probably as far as we can go at this point.
So you've been patching about 2 years? You started?
Yeah, 2 years in December. Yep.
2 years. And again, what have you noticed personally with your health?
Okay. Well, I probably wouldn't be working if I wasn't using the patches. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
I grew up on a farm, and I was abusive to my body. I played football and all those things we shouldn't do in the past. And the patches keep me going. The energy patches work fantastic. It's just amazing what they do. And the technology is so ahead of everything else in healthcare. It's like all the other doctors. We're all ahead of the whole clan of what's going on in the world. And it's amazing. And miracles happen all the time. And I'll talk more about that when we go into the patient issue on that. But,
so how many years young are you, Dr. Pattison?
I am 80, gonna be 81 in February. And so how do you tell how old you feel? I don't know anymore. I've had people think I'm as young as Jeff sometimes, so.
Well, I know you're still in the gym and I know you're still seeing patients and you're cognitively there, and that's all I need to know about you personally. That is
Okay.
fantastic. We're coming around to the professional side, but let's get Dr. Wallace out of Missoula, Montana. Dr. Sam Wallace, if you would share a little bit about your background, as well as how long you've been patching, what you've noticed on a personal basis. We're going to assume those that are listening have not heard my interview with you. So go ahead, Dr. Wallace.
Okay. Thanks, Rich. Hey, everybody. I'm Dr. Sam Wallace. I'm an osteopathic physician. I'm a board certified family physician. I've been practicing in Missoula, Montana for the last 20 years, 25 years, somewhere in there. And during that time, I have been almost entirely regenerative medicine and pioneered several new things in regenerative medicine and making huge changes. But there was a plateau that we couldn't get beyond until I was introduced to these patches 7 months ago. And since that time, similar to the other doctors, my running has become better than it was 10 years ago. Making gains. My vision has cleared. My energy is beyond belief. And now at the 7 month point, I have wrinkles that are going away. They're disappearing. So really a lot of great things happening for me personally.
So those that missed my interview with you, it was pretty funny because you have done stem cell injections, you started patching, and share a little bit about you could tell where it was working first. Share a little bit.
Yeah, because I've received so much therapy, I can tell when stem cells are activated. And I had been telling my patients the most damaged organ that is in the most critical condition is where these stem cells are going to go first. So on day 3, I feel activation in my brain. And I'm like, wait a minute. What are you trying to say? Are you saying I have brain damage? And after a moment, I'm like, okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give you that much. Thanks for the help.
That's right. Fantastic. Well, we're going to loop back to Dr. Harmon, and Dr. Harmon in Idaho. If you'd share on a professional basis, 1 or 2 top patient stories, people you've introduced to the patches and the stories you've heard. Jeff Pattis and I could write a book in the last 22 months, what we've seen, but we'd like to hear from doctors today. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we all could, but there are 2 that kind of stand out. One lady was a nurse for 22 years, and she had to retire because she had MS. And when somebody says this to you, it really builds a deep conviction about the power of these patches.
You didn't need,
And
I'm
she
not
said,
talking to you. He's right behind you.
"Oh, we need to mute Kim." Okay. So she said, back then I was giving samples and I gave her a 5-day supply, and she came back and said, after 5 days, I was doing wall squats and walking without my walker. And I looked at her and I said, you're talking about a dream you had, right? Because that's not really possible. That was remarkable right from the get-go. And then another person who actually wasn't one of my patients, he was the husband of, and they brought the wife in for anxiety, and I was talking to them and I noticed that he's moving really slowly. And I said, what's going on with you, Scott? And he talked about how he was diagnosed with ALS from the Navy. He's taking $1,100 a month worth of prescriptions. He can't work. He can hardly move. And I gave him some samples and I felt really bad for him. I said, here's 10 of them. Just go use these. After 10 days, he actually ran through our parking lot. And you can actually find his testimonial on whathaveyouheard.com. Scroll down to the bottom. It's Scott Allen. He called me last summer just to thank me again. It's been 3 years, but just to thank me. He's working. He takes no prescription drugs. He doesn't have any pain, and he's totally functional. Those were some of the ones that really stand out for me.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's amazing. I'm going to put in a little plug here because I know you just released a new book. And if I can pull that up real quick, and if you could share just briefly as to what you're doing here, if I can find it. Oh, please come up. All right, real quick. Here we go. So came out with the first book, if you can see that, How to Reverse Aging. And tell us a little bit about this last book, The Reverse Aging Power of Epitalon?
Epitalon, yeah.
Epitalon.
Okay, the first book, as I went along and things started happening for me and my patients, I asked how in the heck did this happen? So I started digging through the research. I put together 3 different PowerPoint presentations, and then I said, man, that was hard. I'm going to put together a book where people can just have access to it. So the first one was about the GHK copper peptide, AHK copper peptide. The second one, epitalon is the name of the natural substance that's called epithalamin. Our pineal gland makes that, and there's a patch that signals the pineal gland to make more. But I had to call it epitalon because that's what all the research is done on. It's the synthetic version. It's the same 4 amino acids: alanine, glutamic acid, aspartic acid, and glycine. So the research is rich all over the world for decades on the benefits of that. There are human studies, animal studies, studies on insects. The humans in a long-term trial lived 12 years longer than the ones that were the control group. A lot of really good beneficial things from that. There are 96 references to the research in that the reverse aging power of epitalon.
Yeah, that's
Incredible.
pretty amazing. I don't know anybody that's listening that doesn't want to age gracefully, right? Reverse age. And just briefly, to keep it simple, as we age, folks, on our chromosomes, we have telomeres. And as we age, our biological age is indicated by the length of those telomeres, and they start to shorten. And we have scientific information that after using these cellular regeneration patches, that the telomeres start to lengthen again, and our biological age can be determined. So I'm going to be taking that test in December. I'll mark 2 years I've been patching on December 19th, and I'll be looking at that and seeing what is my biological age. I know that my calendar age is 56. I know the inventor is 60, but his biological age based on the length of his telomeres is in his late 30s. So pretty amazing. I've read part of your first book, not all of it, but those that haven't, check it out on Amazon, Dr. John Harmon, and look into his most recent book as well, if you're interested in aging gracefully. So thank you, Dr. Harmon. Anything else you'd like to add?
I could talk for hours. What would you like? As far as things that have happened with the patients?
No, and the patient's good. Just anything you want to add on the book, your most recent book. I know that
Oh, okay. You will find that there are benefits for both of these in both books, that talks about the benefits for things like our brain, and also the cardiovascular system. So those are 2 very important things in my goals, and you mentioned them about Dr. Pattison. You said, it looks like you have good cognition. One of my goals in life is to remember who I am and not be meeting a new person in my house.
Amen.
So if you only wanted to have these peptides elevated because of the brain issues and cardiovascular, 2 huge things. Cardiovascular, number 1 killer. There are benefits we can go into later, but it's all detailed in the book about how these patches support the cardiovascular system, support, anti-cancer properties. It's not my opinion. It's in the research. It turns on or turns off cancer genes and on. But
Dr. Harmon, if I can just interrupt you, because for those that are viewing that never heard of these patches, I actually have a glutathione patch here. Could you just explain as simply as you can how these patches work? These are non-transdermal patches, so those that are viewing have confidence to know that because they're non-transdermal, nothing foreign from the patch goes into the body, unlike, say, a nicotine patch, which is transdermal. And with that said, since nothing's going from the patch in your body, there's no contraindication, so it won't interfere with any medications that you're on. That's important. What else would you add to that on how these work?
Yeah, sure. You go out in the sun and somehow magically we get vitamin D. How does that happen? Is it in the air? Is it in the UV light? No, we have trillions of nano antennas in our skin. Those nano antennas receive frequencies. That's why when you go into a room and you see somebody, they go, whoa, I get bad vibes from that person. You're picking up the frequencies. Similar, and your body is signaled to make more vitamin D. The patches pick up the energy that you are emitting and reflect back a very specific frequency, same antennas, different message, interpreted by the body as, hey, let's make this peptide instead of let's make more vitamin D. Let's make this. And each patch does a different thing. So that's how they work. Your body is the power source for the patches.
That's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. And with that, I'm going to read a disclaimer because I want to be within compliance here today. Always consult your physician. Although these are doctors on this call, they're not your doctors. So that's important to know. Or a qualified healthcare provider before embarking on a new treatment, diet, or fitness program. We assume no liability or responsibility for damage or injury to persons or property arising from any product, information, idea, or instruction contained in the materials provided to you. It's important for people to know that those that have listened, I was given an anxiety medication because I had a very sick wife for 3 years. I lost my short-term memory. I had an anxiety attack. I was really, really concerned backing up about 20 years ago. Had no idea I'd be addicted to an anxiety medication 4 days later. Had no idea patching would allow me to get off of them in month 4. But I'd like to add across 2 states, 2 physicians that were prescribing them, not one over 18 years ever helped me get off of it. None of them tried to get off of it, help me get off. Not one of them said, hey, Rich, if you're on this for a long period of time, you have a 50% increase for dementia. Not one of them said, hey, by the way, if you're drinking alcohol, it could be lethal. So these are all things I learned after I got off of clonazepam, generic for Klonopin. So I want to give people hope that are listening because I never thought I could get off of it. I never thought I could stop using testosterone after 13 years and spending $6,000 a year for 13 years, that I had another option. But when my blood test came back showing I didn't need any longer, number one, but number two, that nothing was wrong with my blood for the first time, and I'd done quarterly blood tests for 13 years. It was 5 months after patching. So nothing had changed except I started patching. And learning from your book, Dr. Harmon, is we have over 80 peptides in our body. So this is signaling our own body's peptides. Google GHK copper peptide. That is the peptide that allows your body to do some really special things. It's the fountain of youth. So I'm going to skip next to Dr. Kneller because Dr. Kneller is a cardiologist and he's done some research with some heart patches, and I'd like him to share a little bit. He's published that. Dr. Kneller, if you would, please.
Yeah, thanks. So, I've been interested to explore what we can quantify in terms of heart function with the patches, and probably most exciting is an accepted abstract to the American Heart Association, which will be this November 16 in Chicago. So I've got an accepted moderated poster on the effects of some of the heart patches on improving heart function acutely. So what we did is over the heart on the left side of your body, we applied multiple patches to max out the effect, and then at baseline, before doing that, performed an echocardiogram of the heart to quantify heart function, and then repeated that ultrasound 30 minutes after applying multiple heart patches over the heart. And we were able to quantify that on average, the squeeze function of the heart, commonly known as the left ventricular ejection fraction, improved by 6 to 8% on average across 30 volunteers, age ranging from 45 to 85.
Wow, that's a big
huge
deal.
result for cardiology, and that's something that the American Heart Association would appropriately get excited about.
Yeah, I get excited about it. I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Those that are listening, this is a non-transdermal patch. So if nothing goes from the patch in your body, Dr. Kneller, that means your body is 100% working to heal itself. The patch allows your body a boost, if you will. And
Mhm.
you have shown that by applying these patches around the heart and testing within 30 minutes, if I can use efficiency of the heart improvement,
Yeah.
what percentage?
Squeeze function, on average, 6 to 8%.
Wow,
But some people as high as 12 and 14%.
that's
So some
amazing.
astonishing results in individuals, but across averages, we can probably say 6 to 8% on average. And
Amazing.
again, that's a tremendous shift. You know,
Now, I'm gonna just go off the cuff here. There's been a lot of people we've run into going across 16,000 miles since we left Arizona. Jeff and I got an RV and we left Arizona. We've gone 16,000 miles. 4 weeks of that, it sat in Toledo, Ohio, and we've seen a lot of people. And I'm a financial advisor spending 70% of my time doing financial planning. So I'm doing this part-time. And we've seen a lot of people concerned about their health after COVID. And I'll be direct, after they got a shot. And can I ask you, because I've referred several people, those that are listening that are concerned about their heart, can they contact you through Natural Heart Doctor, or how do they get a hold of you?
yeah. So Natural Heart Doctor is a holistic cardiology practice out of Scottsdale, Arizona, where we see patients specifically for the purposes of trying to find alternative therapies to add to their cardiac therapy, hopefully to replace pharmaceuticals and help folks become more natural and to discover root causes of their disease. So that's Natural Heart Doctor through Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm also in a conventional cardiology electrophysiology practice based in Lake Havasu, Arizona. So conventional therapies on your insurance, come see me in Lake Havasu, Arizona. Once we've established we can do the rest through telehealth anywhere in the country. Natural Heart Doctor, we are doing second opinion consults for cardiology patients all across the country and in Europe. So that is something where the initial visit can be a Zoom call. So that is available to anybody on this service through Natural Heart Doctor.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, come visit me in Lake Havasu anytime you like.
I'm going to ask yeah, thank you for that. And those that are viewing, reach out. I know I've referred several people that I've run across with big time concerns, and I've interviewed some amazing stories, including Dr. Harmon, what he's experienced with his own heart issue that he's had personally since patching, and that has gone away. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Harmon.
No,
And
that's
then,
correct.
yeah, and then we've got Dr. Greg Chambers in Arizona, who literally died for 9 minutes. He's a walking miracle by himself. But after patching, his cardiologist could not find any history on his EKG of any heart attack. And that was about 6 months after patching, if not less. So pretty amazing. On a professional side, Dr. Cannella, could you talk or speak to the healing process you've noticed with your patients that are patching? Because I remember you showing me some photos of that.
Yeah, so we've used the patches to accelerate wound healing in several examples from my clinical population. For people who are interested in complementary therapies and looking for natural adjuncts. And we have one of those studies accepted for publication in the Journal of Innovations in Cardiac Rhythm Management. And following pacemaker wound extraction for infection, for example, leaving a big crater wound, we were able to demonstrate that with the application of X39 next to that wound, that it healed 50% faster compared to what the wound care services following the patient would have anticipated. And then on the heels of that, another study, which I'm expecting to be accepted very soon, a very large hematoma around a device, for example, with the combination of 3 different devices acting synergistically, we achieved a 500% increase in healing time compared to what expert consensus would have predicted for that situation.
Wow.
So we've seen some dramatic improvements in wound healing from our experience. You know, those are individual case studies. But it's individual cases that do convince the mind. And we've seen some pretty astonishing results. And some of those will be available in the mainstream medical literature shortly.
So, Doc, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Was it 500% faster healing? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Then
Okay.
anticipated. So you
Wow.
have a wound, you share it on social media among the electrophysiology community, and you say, start to finish, expert consensus, how long would you folks anticipate that this would take? And the average estimate across 46 responders was 4 to 5 weeks. Looks like about a 4 to 5 week healing process when the pictures were taken 6 days apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
that's a
Yeah.
big one.
Congratulations. That's
That-
awesome.
Yeah, it's very hard to standardize wound healing, but certainly that recovered much faster than anyone kind of would have predicted.
So gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, the patches allow your bodies to produce more collagen, which helps in the healing process, correct?
Well, the GHK copper peptide is known as the emergency response peptide. Why? You have to patch things up. You have to grow new capillaries in order to get into the wound where there's no blood flow, and you need to activate stem cells. Emergency response, that would be a wound, and all of a sudden you have all of the resources, you have the stem cells, you have new capillaries, it chemo attracts capillaries into the tissue that has none. So obviously it's going to heal much faster if you can get in raw materials and oxygen and everything else to it.
Thank you for that. Hey, ladies that are watching, we have 2, if not 3 cases of women that have been patching, not the reason they patched, but C-section scars of over 20 years gone. So the question is, if a C-section scar of over 20 years is gone, imagine what it's doing, what the inside of the body is doing to that for that to happen.
Yeah.
And they didn't patch for that reason. They just looked down and it's gone. One was Jeff's sister in Iowa, and the other is a friend of mine in Glendale, Arizona. So pretty amazing. Coming to Dr. Pattison, we've not forgotten you. What patient story sticks out? And I'm going to lean you towards 1 or 2 with 2 ladies that have curvature of spine at age 80 and 90. Could you speak to those 2 patient situations you've seen, Dr. Pattison?
Okay, I just want to back up a little bit. I've been advanced certified in acupuncture for many, many, many years. Also a master in the best procedure. And besides that, some patients, I want to go into one that has an acute issue. Acute swollen disc, pain levels of 10, probably in his upper 40s. He couldn't move or bend, he could just waddle. I did my exam, did my treatment, and went down to probably a 7. I got him off of the table. I put a patch in the middle of his back and 2 other patches on the side, and almost within the time I put that patch on, he could move and bend every which way. Now, if you've got a swollen disc, that can take weeks in chiropractic and therapy to help, but that happened in minutes and less than that. So pain is nothing more than the energy stuck. So the patches help that energy to flow, which helps the body to heal, increases the peptides and everything they're talking about. So that was one case. Another case I had was a gentleman that had been injured in the past, severe injury, couldn't turn his neck, all kinds of many medications, and he was on the patches for several months. And the point I'm making is people that are on the patches respond twice as fast, like the other doctors are talking about. And neuromuscular issues, I work with the limbic system. Again, the other doctor said, it's memory in that nervous system. If you can remove that memory in that system, the body will heal faster. So the patches make it happen twice as fast as usual. So the ones now with the curvatures, we've got a lady 90 years old, and she's growing an inch or 2. She's had what they call congenital scoliosis for years. She's been on the patches for a year or more. And she went into her doctors. Of course, the doctors couldn't believe it. She's on no drugs and drove herself to the office. She's 90 years old. And she responds so much faster with care that I give her. So those are the 2 things. And of course, I can go into those deeper. And
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Those that are viewing, prior to today's discussion, have you ever heard of somebody 90 years old that has grown 2 inches? And you have an 80-year-old that's grown 2 inches. I have never, ever heard of that. prior
Well,
to?
this thing instead of growing, they extended 8 inches. It didn't grow more, but the spine became straighter by
Thank
8
you.
inches.
Yeah,
And
thank
by
you for that
2 inches,
clarification.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah, so anyhow, I can tell you many cases, but it's just amazing. I've taken people and lowered their blood pressure by 40 points in one visit. That don't happen without the patches. I've had the frequencies go down. I've had miraculous changes. The patients get off the table and look at me and say, "What did you do?" It's all gone. And of course, that don't happen without patches. So the patches extend your life, extend your health, response to anything that's happened. We've had people at our meetings. One lady several years ago, has been patching for 4 or 5 years. She broke her ankle. And she's been patching for a long time. Her husband told me there was nothing holding the ankle on there but a few ligaments. She said she had no pain, which is hard to believe. They sewed it up, healed it up, patched it up. Ankle was totally normal again. I don't remember how long, but twice as fast as anything else. So the whole point is, with all of us doctors, we're seeing our patients respond 50% or more than that faster. Some of mine is like 80% faster care.
Doc, have any of your
miraculous.
patients called you a magician?
Oh, I've been called that many years. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, what did you do? I had a lady, gosh, about 4 months ago. She's in her 50s, had back and leg pain for 5 years, been to umpteen doctors. And after the 4th visit, she looked at me and said, "What'd you do? It's all gone." I said, "Well, I just got the energy flowing. The pain goes, the energy flows, the pain goes, the body heals." And it's that simple. So then you still got to drink water, you got to eat right, exercise, all the other things. But yeah, it's so miraculous. I'm just so thankful to the Lord that gave us this knowledge and the patches and what He's done and all kind of stuff. So, but it's that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. It's fun to do, and when you have a patient come in with pain and they walk out with the pain gone, and all you did is a few things. Amazing. So
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr.
yeah,
Pattison. Dr.
sure.
Wallace, we're going to end on you. What have you noticed since you've been patching patients? Your top 1 or 2 stories, Dr. Wallace, out of Missoula, Montana.
All right. Well, it's stories all day, every day. So last night I gave a talk in Hamilton, Montana, and we patched people there. They're all getting better. But somebody came in yesterday, so I can just tell you a recent one because they're all amazing. Somebody came in yesterday. They're 10 years younger looking. They're not having any senior moments, which they were very concerned about, and rightfully so. They are 10 pounds lighter without trying, which is something they have tried significantly to do in the past without success. Skin smooth, the anxiety of all the details of life almost completely resolved with the inflammation patch. And the sleep is incredible, energy is incredible, and it's just one of dozens. So that was pretty cool. Another person who was having deteriorating eyesight and some damage in the back of their retina, threatening blindness, went back to their doctor and heard the words that doctors don't ever say about that. Even if it could happen, doctors would think they charted it wrong because it doesn't happen. Said your retina's better, and
Wow.
just amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah, we've had people with floaters. I know your floaters have been reduced. Some have gone away. One gal in Florida we patched within the first month in her 70s. Stigmatism gone. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Let me share that one here. One of my patients, 75-year-old woman, one inflammation patch put on her in the office. The next day, 80% of her floaters gone.
Wow.
And then a month after signing up, they're all gone.
Wow. I bet she gave you a hug.
Yeah, that wasn't even the coolest thing that happened with her, but it's
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. That's amazing. I'm going to put a plug in because we're in Franklin, Tennessee, and Heather did a fantastic job at her clinic, Body Architecture Fitness. I know she's on a call, and Jeff and I patched, oh gosh, with her about 8 people. And not only was pain reduced, several eliminated pain, and one lady was in pain for 17 years. So pretty amazing here in Tennessee. And gosh, this has been one of the most gratifying things I've done in my life. You gentlemen know what it's like to help people on a health level all the time. For me, it was wealth advising, and that is great to prepare people for retirement. But if you don't have your health, you have nothing. Health and time are our biggest assets, if I can be blunt, and our faith. But that's huge. So I got so depressed after doing financial planning and now I've done it for 35 years, because all my friends would work their entire life to retire and then get sick and not enjoy it. So I think I'm the only wealth and health advisor that I know of in the country. So pretty gratifying. So thank you guys for being on a call. I'm gonna go off of Facebook, and then we're going to stop our recording, and then we will open up for questions. We've got about 90 people on the Zoom call, so get ready to answer a few questions. Jeff's going to monitor that. And one moment.